FloridaJS, as always, is first Tuesday and last Tuesday of the month. We'd like to talk today about live coding with Mr. Jermbo. We're going to be using sample APIs, just the overall rough, everybody here knows about it, just in case you're first seeing us on YouTube or wherever the case may be. Meetup.com/FloridaJS is where you can find us. If you can't find us there, FloridaJS.com will be another place that you can find us. We meet first and last Tuesday of the month. We try to meet always around 6:30, and the presentation starts around 7 o'clock, which is what now is. We're Jeremy, Damien, and Jeannie. We've combined all three groups. You know that. Let's go ahead and please, if you haven't already, I know most of you guys have, but if you haven't already, go ahead and join us at youtube.com/FloridaJS. If you don't follow anybody else, if you can go ahead and at least follow FloridaJS, you don't have to worry about. You'll see events as they're happening here. Let me go ahead and correct something you guys are not seeing that people on YouTube are seeing. Florida Tech Hub. Oh my gosh, they've changed their name so much I can't get it ready. TechHubSouthFlorida.org/Slack.
Just call it Tech Hub. Just call it Tech Hub.
Yes. Yeah. But the domain name is something you have to look at. Do follow us in the developers channel. There's developers channel. It should be called developers. And you'll find us. That's the best channel. I am actually organizing a whole Slack, and it is by far the most trafficked channel, and the best chats will be there. You can find us there at Jermbo, Damien, and Beanie there. Code Palm Beach. If you haven't tried it out, it's where it's dedicated to teaching kids how to code. Jeremy, do you want to talk a little bit about that, Jeremy?
Sure. So as Damien mentioned, it's a nonprofit organization dedicated to teaching kids to code. We hold monthly events, both in person and virtual, to try to introduce the topic of computer science to school-age children. If you are interested in volunteering, please check out codepalmbeach.org. There's a volunteer tab there with more fact and information. We're always looking for more volunteers. It's a great way to give back to the community. So please reach out to me. I'm at Jermbo on the Slack channel, or fill out that form, and we'll be happy to have you.
Wonderful. But we're here to see Mr. Joe. So, Mr. Jeremy, see, I'm automatic and all that. So enough about me and presentations. Let's hear what we're doing, Mr. Jeremy. So take it away, Mr. Jeremy.
Very cool. Can everyone see my screen right?
Yes, sir.
Sweet. So sample APIs, I've talked about it a lot. Boca Code uses this in their lessons. It's all about RESTful APIs. One of the reasons I created this was to teach what a RESTful endpoint was without the need of authentication. Authentication is important, but teaching what the HTTP verbs mean, how to think about these resources and endpoints and all those things started getting in, it's tough enough without the authentication. So Sample APIs is a tool built around that. It is a repository of just any APIs you can think of. Futurama, Coffee, coding resources. It's open source program, so anybody can contribute to it. If you check out the docs and the GitHub, it's pretty clear on how to contribute to it. So if you see a resource or endpoint on here and want to add to it, or you don't see talent resource on here, then submit a pull request. Let's get it added there. So today's today's event, I was trying to think about what can I add to this system, and I figured it'd be fun to do a little code along and try to add code pen examples to an individual endpoint. What do I mean by that? So if I go to the individual page for Futurama, for example, I have a code pen-like playground here where you can start typing things in. And you can see the example display on the right-hand side. And I wanted to give the example of how to do basic fetch and display the data in the JSON format. But the problem with this is twofold. One, it's cumbersome, right? Like all the code here, like I'm not using SAS, I don't have any preprocessors. It's not very obvious when you change endpoints that something is happening. So other than the data changing. So how do you know what the right item is? Damien submitted a pull request to add this link up here to help make it a little bit more obvious of what the link is when you're changing there. The second main problem with this is if you make all the changes here, it deletes on refresh of the page. So how do you take this and bring this with you, right? So that's one of the problems I'm trying to solve here. So if I see inventory, for example, and there's a code pin example in our system, I want to load that instead of my playground. So that way, if you see this, you can start editing it, and then you can continue editing it on CodePen and take it wherever you want. So that's the goal of what I'm trying to accomplish today. I want to talk about a little how the system is set up. So if we look in the background, we notice I have two systems here, two Visual Studios open. That's because this application is a monolith, right? Or a mono repo. Mono repo is one repo to rule them all. I have my server in that repo, and I have my client side, my front end in that repo. When I open up the individual folder for the server or for the client, so clients and server, I have a VS Code extension or settings here that gives me the blue and the green for the React and the Node backend. So this helps me differentiate between what I'm working on. A high level of the backend. Everything starts off in this sample APIs. This is what the Node server starts off, and everything is run based on this front end URL. Right, this is what my front end hits to get information. Where this come from is the base APIs. And essentially what I'm trying to do is, if you look at this is a mix of old code because version 2.0, I had everything living in my Node server using Pug as a template engine and trying to get that to display to match the existing list of APIs versus the what's being displayed. I used to have this API list. This API list was manually created. So a part of submitting a pull request is not only do you have to create the data in the API folder and the backup file, but you had to submit this information in addition to that. And the problem with this approach is there's plenty of chances for misspelling and miscommunication between what the title of the API is versus the file name. There's plenty of opportunities to miss the endpoints. So if one gets deleted from the JSON file and this isn't updated, there's a chance for a mismatch there. Or if one gets added to the JSON file and is not added here, then the users are potentially not finding out about APIs that they can play around with. So I figure there's got to be a better way of handling this, mainly reading the JSON file and building this list for me. So if we take a look at the way the system works now, the main JSON file that the individual endpoints are automatically read from the system. And I move the metadata into the individual endpoints JSON file instead of having the separate API list. So this gives me the title, the description, etc. And I also was able to enhance my system by giving it a feature flag and categories. So the feature flag is what am I displaying on the homepage, and the categories allows me to have filter functionality in the all API lists. So this was just a different way to help categorize things and people search through APIs, because as this gets larger and larger and larger, how do you discover what you're interested in? We need some sort of search for functionality. So that's the back end in a nutshell. And the front end in a nutshell is React and TypeScript. One of my motivations for using React and TypeScript is my day job required it. And this is a nice, safe playground for me to get going there. We have the main pages. Everything is done based on this app. We have the global context that sits at the top. This is good okay-ish practice to put everything into the global provider because it's a very small app, and I wanted everything to be available at all times. Things for the global context is navigation setting all of the API lists. So when I hit the server, I'm getting back the information from my backend, and that's populating multiple things on the home page, on the all APIs page, and the individual API details page. And you see I'm setting foundation for authentication, right? So setting is user logged in and things like that. Yeah, so the main place that we'll be dealing with today is the API details page, because this is where everything is happening. And as a high level breakdown, I'm essentially getting a prop type from the URL parameter. So if we look at the website, I'm at /Futurama. All right, so API list /Futurama. If I go to Switch Games, for example, this is the data that's being pulled from here. So when I hit my server, I have a big list of APIs, and I'm filtering through those APIs to display that information that I have on the screen. And then from there, now that I've isolated that individual object, I have a bunch more information on there. So you'll notice the description, the categories, the title, and then the endpoints are coming from that one individualized location. So that's the evolution to where I'm at with version 3.0. And now I'm just adding small enhancements and trying to get this more user-friendly, because this, again, is being used by beginners and students all over the place. And I want to make this as intuitive and friendly and helpful as possible. So that's it in a nutshell. That's where things are at. And I figured it would be fun for just me to help me to code live and see how far I can get in implementing the feature of when I click on an item, if there is a CodePen example, show that CodePen example. If not, show my playground. Any questions? Any comments? Everybody good? Cool.
I love the look. Let's see it.
Sweet. All right, I have a set of notes over here, so I just want to make sure I hit everything. The next area that I wanted to talk about is kind of what needs to update. So the first thing I need to update is I need to update the server to give me the data I need. I've already created in the past a few Futurama related code pens based on the quiz. So I have a jQuery version of this, I have a Vue version, and then I have just a random inventory item that I'm working on. So I have a couple of code pens in here, and the idea behind this is that it's just showing how to use something utilizing the sample APIs. It doesn't have to be anything super fancy. It doesn't have to be anything very complex. It's just an example of what could be done. So I have this item here already, and I need to add this to my metadata. There's a couple of different thoughts that I'm going about. I could go about creating an endpoint, or no, examples. And I was messing with the idea of doing a key value pair object. So I'll have inventory, and the inventory would hold an array of URLs. Being that my front end system is TypeScript based, I'm going to need to expand the type definition to include this examples. But example inventory is specific to Futurama. If I were to go to Avatar, they have characters, episodes, and questions. There's no inventory in here. So typing that I thought would be a little bit more difficult. So I'm thinking through this a little bit more. Examples could be an array of objects. And with that array of objects, I can have a key of endpoint, URL, and name. this is something I can type. This is something I can have type safety with, and that would be across any of my endpoints here. So the avatar, the baseball, the beers, the whatever would have an endpoint, a URL, and a name. Okay. So now I need to verify that I'm getting this information and figure out how to get it into my system and display it. So the first place I want to mess with is the interfaces. So I've categorized everything and grouped everything in what I think are meaningful locations. So all of my interfaces right now are in one file instead of separating them into individual files. And we'll look at the API data specifically, because this is the name, link, the metadata, and all of the endpoints that come in there. The metadata has all of that fancy information that's coming from the endpoint. So I need to expand on this, say examples. And this is of type
we're going to have a new, yeah.
Yep. So export interface, examples. We're going to have a URL. That's a string. We're going to have a, what do they call it? Endpoints. That's also a string. And lastly,
It's a name, I think
name.
it was. Yeah.
Yep. So that's pretty simple. It's just going to be an array of these items. Okay. So now I need to consume these and do something with it. So if we go to the API details page, we should be getting an array of APIs here. And a singular API is an API data. So if I just for fun console log API, what am I getting? Getting errors, nice.
There you go.
Keys. I got that.
You
All
have
right,
it there.
so the first time it comes by, it's undefined, that's fine. So we have endpoints, links, metadata. Boom, there's my examples.
Sweet.
Okay, I can work with this. So the first thing I'm going to try to do is when I click on the button for inventory, I'm going to display the one item. Questions has two items, so I will work on displaying the first item it finds. Then I'll enhance it later on to figure out how to cycle between the two. Maybe it'll be like a carousel, maybe they'll stack on top of each other. I'm not really sure what I want to do there just yet. So let's get that going first.
I always recommend stacks on stacks on stacks.
Damn.
Yeah.
All right.
Really as many carousels as possible.
We could absolutely do a, so on the homepage, I'm using a data set. So I could collapse them based on, the title, and you can just open up and see all the examples that are there. That's a way we can go about it.
I think he was joking around and quoting a very famous rapper. Is that right, Todd?
It wasn't a rapper. I'm trying to remember where I got that from.
I think it's a rapper.
I think it was from Parks and Rec that I got it. They probably got it from a rapper, but Parks and Rec.
Love it.
Mm-hmm. So I think the first thing I need to do is create a component for the CodePen example. One thing I really miss from Angular, and you won't see me this very often, is I love their CLI tool. When you want to create a new component, a new service, a new page, a new thing, it's there for you, right? I did find this tool, Generate React CLI. So if you want to create a new component or a page or a hook, are the predefined templates that I created for this, that'll be great. And this will help with consistency.
That's amazing. No, I thought you're going to call it examples, right? Or something like that. You're going to call it
probably a much
CodePen?
better name.
That's okay. It just creates, where did it create it?
Well, Yeah, I think CodePen will be appropriate because in the future I might have a code sandbox. So if I want to embed the code sandbox, I will have a separate component for that. So
I see.
One of the enhancements I'm thinking of is the example could indicate where it's coming from.
Nice. Right.
This is agile development.
Or child parent, or stacks on stacks on stacks, I believe.
All of the above. All right. So you'll see this generated a CodePen component. Called it CodePen. That's unfortunate. There's a little bit of a bug there, but this scaffolded out what I've deemed a base component. So I happen to have a snippet from the CodePen team of what a embed would look like. So we'll figure out how to change things up and get stuff going. We're gonna have to get that working. Class name, and that should be good for right now. We'll enhance it with props and getting things in there.
You're hard coding the hash there, but don't we want that to be
from the prop?
Dynamic?
Yep. Yeah, I'm gonna pull it from the props here.
Okay.
So we can figure this out. That's not going to need change. That'll be interesting.
Yeah, Todd, when I was learning it from Boca Code, I learned to make it one step at a time.
Oh yeah, I'm impatient, so title. I just do it all at once.
Yep. String URL is type. You know what? I can type these props as endpoint. What did I call it? Interfaces, examples. Probably be more appropriate named example because it's singular and it's an array of that. So we need to destruct title. What do I have? Oops.
Name, URL, endpoint.
URL, endpoint. Boom.
Beautiful.
All right, so name. URL. Name. And that's it for the time being. I don't think I need the endpoint in this one because reasons.
What about that data slug hash? Is that going to end up being like the last part of the URL?
That's what it looks like. So what I think I could do is, if I look at my example, so one of the rules I'm going to have to make is the CodePen needs to live on my CodePen. So like, for example, Todd, if you create a CodePen and you want it in here, I might have to fork it. So that way I get a copy of it and have that unique ID there. So that way, if for whatever reason you're doing some spring cleaning and you delete it, not thinking about where it's connected to, I'll have a copy of it. So it might be safe to say that all I need is the ID, the CodePen ID, because this will all have to live under my URL
that makes
temporarily.
Sense. That makes sense.
So, but yeah, we can, if I get it to display, I'll figure that out in a second.
For your convenience in forking it, it might be good to still ask for the whole URL.
So quite the opposite, since he's going to be always forking and it's always going to be his account. The idea would be that it's not the full URL, so you could put the slug, the hash, just there. If that's
is the hash unique across all accounts?
Yes, it's not unique. Yeah. It's per the it is the page essentially that we're talking about.
Okay.
So the inventory vanilla one, the Futurama quiz from Vue, as a.
So what I'm thinking now would be an author. URL to their code pin or their name, so like a little author section, so that way
Right.
we can attribute it correctly. Just because the pin lives in my account doesn't necessarily mean I don't want to give the other person who created it the credit. So we can definitely expand upon that in the very, very near future.
Cool.
So I've got my interfaces set up. I've got the new code pin example component up. Now we need to link it, right? So there's a couple ways we can go about doing this. That we could have a state that's tracking what the user clicked on. So if we look at the URL, look at the website, I'm just changing the state that's coming in here to do this. So I can figure out where that's at, pull from the endpoints, see if any of them match. If they do, display. If not, don't. So where would I do that? That's a good question. So this use effect is running on load and specifically on change of the ID, which is the URL parameter up top. And then if the API list changes. So there might be an scenario where you hit directly that page and I haven't fetched from the API list yet. So once that gets populated into the state, then rerun this specific use effect. So Damien, this is Damien's contribution of adding that link there. So I wonder if I can pull off of that.
You'll have to pull off
You have
this,
the
but
simple
also we'll have to keep track of what which one of the examples they clicked on.
Well, you know, Jeremy, you could argue that it makes sense to have a separate use effect for this since it's a separate purpose, right?
Agreed.
So yeah, so maybe have a separate use effect with a separate dependency list that just does this one thing. Because I was thinking like, oh, you might need to reference it in both of those use effects. So you create a function and call it from both, but really it could just be its own use effect that you know is specific to if the you know, whatever the tag is, I guess is it the single API? Is that what's changing?
So it's both, Todd. You're
Yeah.
absolutely right. So we want to keep track of which example they've chosen, but also we want to keep track of when the API endpoint has changed, which is the one that he's referring to. So both of them.
So
you're absolutely right, but we also need to keep track of that one.
I'm not.
So
as
here's
familiar
the
with code. I
list
know
of APIs, and we're setting single endpoint. So single endpoint is happening here. So yes, we can listen to single API. And then example list. So I want this to be an array of examples, right? So if single API, run this code. I like to return early. I don't like everything being in there, but that's a style preference. We have the single endpoint.
I think the API that one has.
Yes, API.
Yeah. You still need that line 27 to 31, but I think it's for listening to the changes in the example list.
Yep. So sample API, single API. So this is where the example should be, right? Metadata dot example. There we go. Okay. So const new example list equals sample API dot metadata examples. Oops. Filter. What do we want to filter for? So example e dot if the endpoint matches
Right.
See that's what I'm trying to do. Like I want to match the one that has
This API endpoint. It looks like you have like when you scroll down, you had something called this API endpoint.
Yes.
Scroll. Keep going. Keep going.
Oh,
I
there
think
it
at
is.
the top. Yeah.
This API endpoint. Where are you defining that? I'm assuming that's it.
I think that's the full URL. I may be wrong.
So single endpoint would be the one.
Yeah.
Single endpoint, right?
You clearly, if I made those variables. If there's a question of what's what, I chose the wrong variables.
Well, I mean, I understand what you're trying to do there with that API, but I want to. Which category did I click on?
Yeah. So
we might need to select the category. So what am I getting with this API endpoint?
it's single endpoint. That's the word that will match the variable endpoint in the array that you have there. Single endpoint. So that equals not blank, but single endpoint. Yeah.
Yep. There you go.
There you go. Yeah, that should give you. And then if it's not null, then you have something, and you grab the first one of that list.
New example list, and then if we have example list and example list.map, and then we will create a code pen. And then what do we need from there? We needed the URL, and that equals l.url, and then we needed name.
The name. Yep.
And that equals l.name.
Beautiful.
Why'd you break?
You also need to have a key. Anytime you have a map, you have a key. And the URL should be unique, so you can use the URL.
Yep. Key string, URL string.
Well, because you don't have a key.
Type examples.
There's no key in the constructor of the code pen.
No, it's because it's endpoint is a required field, and I said this is going to be an item.
Are you accepting the endpoint? Okay.
Yeah, key.
I am.
Yeah.
Key is the only thing it doesn't pass through as a
in here.
As a prop. Yeah, it won't pass it through as a prop.
Yeah, because instead of defining a custom prop for this particular component, I said this equaled examples.
Yes.
And endpoint is a thing. I'm not using it there, but I need to replace it.
Yeah, you're right.
So Todd, help me out with this. I've seen a lot of people do something like this. L. Like for like this dot props or something. Is that gonna work?
I think so.
Get out of here.
Yeah, that should work.
Wow.
Yeah, because you're just passing those properties, that list instead.
Holy smokes, that's amazing.
So here's
when your names
here's my
match exactly.
argument.
Right.
Here's my issue with that.
Anthony, you're right.
I don't know what that is.
What do you mean? What
right?
is that?
It's like so like .l. Like I have to do more mental gymnastics to figure out what I'm passing in there versus doing the explicit return. But with a item of 15 plus props, is this better? With an item of 3 props?
What you're saying, it's harder. It's like harder to read, but it's easier to write.
One of the drawbacks might be that
because I'm working in the code base now where there is a ton
what were you saying?
Like this.
I was going to say one of the drawbacks to that is you might be pushing down more than you need because it's everything.
But he was pushing down more than he needed because it was requiring, because he had it strictly typed, so it was requiring all 3 parameters even though he was only using 2.
Yeah.
So it's unavoidable in that particular case.
I do interface.
I'm a big fan. I love this. It's amazing, but I'm a big fan of readability. But you get the readability here.
Yeah.
Right? In this.
this is the thing, like I'm not really a TypeScript user, but because you're using TypeScript, you're forcing it to be a specific thing. So it kind of makes it readable, given that you know what that object is. But yeah, I mean, maybe instead of calling it L, Jeremy, if you call it like this example, then it's a little bit more obvious what it is, right?
I like that.
Yeah, my comment was just based on the fact that the props you're bringing in have to meet what you're looking for, but there could be more there too, and you're just passing everything through. So you
right, but what I was saying is that's what he's doing anyway, because he has to pass that is of type example, and he's requiring it to get type example, so he has to pass the whole thing through, even though he's not using it. So it's the way he's constructed it. It's not that he's using the spread operator, it's that he's using TypeScript, and he's expecting.
I get that, because I do a lot of React programming in TypeScript, but I've written a book on it. But my point is that his example that he just created now, what you pass through could actually have more than what that is.
Well, it can never have more than what the example object is.
No,
the code pen in this case
that has those properties will be acceptable as an example object, but it can have a lot more, and you can be pushing a lot more down, and you need to be careful about that. That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
Can you include more properties if it's strictly typed?
Yeah, TypeScript works that way. Any object that has those properties can be an instance of that thing, regardless of what else it has.
So I could put, author equals Todd on that, even though it's not in the type definition. It'll ignore that.
And it still fits the requirements of being an example. So
right.
Well, yeah. Only because he put props here and he didn't define it. Now he's defining it. Fancy.
Yeah, I mean, I've gone back and forth in this, because it's like I've seen code bases that I'm working with now, and I find this incredibly hard to figure out what's going on. Like I have to go through this chain of like, okay, this was passed down through here, and then it's like the whole prop drilling issue of trying to get the grandparent and the great grandchild that needs the information. So it's hiding a bunch of this through ... props through 3 or 4 components, and I'm like, no idea what any of this is doing. So
I mean,
I'm on the fence with this.
You should cascading. I don't think you should be cascading your props down like that anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
It sounds like somebody trying to avoid context.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, this was code built before context, so.
Yeah.
Yes.
If we want to say that, the React people say you shouldn't be using classes anyways.
Yeah.
Exactly. All right. So inventory. We have nothing. Oops.
Crash.
It's not working.
I don't like it. Nope. It liked it. Nope. Did I say it liked it? I didn't mean it.
Examples of undefined.
Yeah, I was wondering if you.
Oh, the variable wasn't passed.
No, I was wondering if you have one that it doesn't have that, or
it's the filters trying to run without checking that it's defined first, right?
Well, don't you have to listen to the single endpoint? Don't you have to put that in the line 34?
Yes, that as well.
So leave it in there. I'll put it as a listener in line 35, like a comma, single endpoint.
Yep, that's what your yellow underline is there.
Oh, yeah, single endpoint. Okay, yep.
It has to be a dependency. Yeah.
Well, what was the error? That was the error, or no? That wasn't the error.
No, but that was a warning that we were getting.
Okay, that looks good. It's working.
Showing up.
Beautiful.
So if we go to info.
Beautiful.
So info should run normally. Inventory should run CodePen. Question should run CodePen. right? So it's showing the 2. Okay,
Amazing.
we can solve the other 2 problems in a second.
Amazing.
Why is this not running?
I like the 2 example ideas.
Yeah.
Like,
You don't have the or, like you don't have an if statement there.
this is React's way of doing an if statement.
Oh.
Well, you could also do it as a ternary, Jermbo.
Oh, yeah.
You know how I feel about that. Ternary operators.
Ternary.
I'm a fan of the ternary.
Go back.
Oh, there we
Back. Oh, it's working?
Yeah. Because like,
What was wrong before? What did you change?
I had a dot length.
Oh, okay. Cool.
So now, why is CodePen not loading the CodePen?
Is it the slug, the data slug? Try putting something in there.
Oh yeah, line 17.
Yeah, put in.
Does it need the slug?
Yeah, just put anything to test it. Put one of the real ones from your code.
Yeah, I'm getting it now.
Yeah, okay. That's it. Nope.
Yeah.
That wasn't it.
Error.
Yeah.
Blocked by client.
Yeah.
Oh no, that's Google. That's something else.
Yeah.
Huh.
Okay. I wonder how. You know what? Check this out. I wonder if I need to put this at a higher level. Index. Nope. I need this.
Yeah, HTML
somewhere else. Public.
Index at HTML. Yeah. It was next to the index.tsx. Yeah. Okay. You did it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. You shove it at the bottom, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah, they async it. So.
Yeah, I guess I'm back in the jQuery days. Yeah. Absolutely.
Open embed script. Let's see if that's all my problems.
That makes sense.
No doubt.
And there's no errors. Look at that. There's no errors. Is there something in the network?
Maybe
that's going to be my next test.
They
might be looking for it on page load to initialize it.
Yes, I was going to say that. I bet you need to sort of nudge it.
Yeah.
You need to tell CodePen, hey, I changed something.
You probably need to do a window dot kind of a call to that CodePen.
Yeah. So let's Google it. Just do CodePen. There you go. Embed anything about React or Angular. It's gonna be the same thing. Are there?
Is there a CodePen React component? That'll just solve my problems. React CodePen embed.
No.
So I might not need to create mine. 7 months ago, 1.0.
Oh, nice. Look at that. Go back. But it needs the hash. So you get to just change your code.
Yeah.
Just a hash and
looks nice.
How do you guys feel? Looks great. How do you guys feel about using some, random component here?
You could always look at the code and see what it looks like.
Yeah. Repository.
I like how you think, Todd. Let's see.
Thanks. So yeah, let's look
code. What was it? CodePen. It's beautiful.
Just this.
Look at that. Oh my God! It's doing everything manually. Jesus Christ! What is this? React Mobile and React Native? Jesus fucking Christ! Come on.
Yeah, that's pretty.
That looks like yours. Look, that right there, line 59 to 70 is your stuff.
So look at the is loading. That's maybe something with that. How are they doing that? Let's look at that show loader and.
Oh, that sounds like the loader. It's coming up.
npm install.
The thing that I thought was interesting was
Yeah.
this one,
Unload.
loading script.
Yeah, it's creating the script and it's mounting it.
Oh,
Right.
live.
So it's loading that script.
Hmm.
I don't think that should matter though. It's like this is just putting it on there for the first time.
Yeah, and it sounds awful. It sounds like the script will be inserted like 40 times as you click around on the website.
Right.
You know what? For fun, let me stop the server and run it again. That's been a problem before. So since I touched the index.html, React might not have known about it.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
True. What do you guys
Nope.
What's your feeling of using npm versus yarn?
I'm too old-fashioned. I never understood the difference, by the way. So I always npm it, thinking like that's just like, what is the difference, Todd? What's yarn? Like I thought yarn was like, fuck npm, I don't like it. Let's use the one that just copies it. Because they use node module directory. They follow all the things.
They have, it's like, it's npm plus, right?
What's the plus? What do they add other than it's not run by
I haven't
npm?
looked at this in a while. What's npm versus yarn? I'm gonna Google it.
Yeah. I'm curious what the rest of you guys think about yarn.
I'm in the boat.
It doesn't solve any problems for me. So
What you saying,
NPM all the
Anthony?
way.
I'm in the same boat, waiting to hear what the difference is.
Oh, okay.
As far as I can say, they just keep, passing each other on functionalities. So.
Yeah, they leapfrog, right?
Yes.
Yarn was created simply because NPM was stagnating and they weren't putting in features that people wanted. And
I thought it was just that people were pissed off that the npm people were making money while Node Boy decided to jump ship and go Dino without getting any money from npm, which was the only one making money from Node.
Yeah, but I think it was really more that.
Oh, Yarn was released by Facebook.
What?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, Yarn came about, mostly because there was some functionality missing in npm.
They're saying performance and security shortcomings.
Yeah, so they created Yarn. Well, one of the things they did was Yarn pioneered the lock file and stuff. Okay, so then npm, they were like, okay, we got to catch up. So they caught up and they leapfrogged it. And in general, I end up using npm more than Yarn. But
oh wow.
Yeah.
So listen to this if you have like to install, libraries, there's like a speed test. npm if nothing's cached, npm takes 67 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
Yarn takes 57, but if the libraries are cached, it's 61 versus 29.
Wow.
And to do a reinstall, npm is 28 seconds and Yarn is 1.2.
But Todd, doesn't Yarn take it from a different store, like back end?
No, it uses the same. It uses the same repository.
Yeah.
Then how does it do the magic?
What I find too, Damien, is that Yarn's like, it runs like multi-threaded, so it'll be downloading like 5 libraries at a time.
That I
whereas
get.
npm is more linear.
But they all pull from npmjs.com.
But I have had problems with Yarn.
Amazing.
Where if I try to do the install with Yarn, the application won't run. If I try to do it with npm, it will run.
Oh, really? For what kind of applications? For React?
Yeah, Yarn. This was in-house at JP Morgan and stuff. And for some reason, Yarn messes up the dependency hierarchy sometimes.
Oh.
Really?
So that's why I trust npm more.
Well, what I find is what I've found in my experience is that it's fine to use either as long as you're not like mixing and matching. So if you have like 5 people working on a repository if one of them's using npm and the other 4 are using yarn or some combination, that's where you run into problems.
Yeah.
You can always just delete your lock files, delete your node modules, and either npm I or yarn, either way.
Yeah.
But yarn is also like the commands are a little bit shorter. It's a little more friendly. And then up until a recent version of npm, if you did an npm install, it wouldn't save it in your dependencies unless you said -- save.
Yeah, but they fixed that like 2 years ago.
Yeah. So,
like,
but whereas yarn always had that. So
yeah, and I mean, there's arguments to be said because now it's actually, like, okay, wait a minute, I don't want it in the dependencies, but they both have problems they both seem to have problems if I keep adding packages during development. Really, if I delete a package during development and then add other stuff, sometimes I get on things that are unstable and I just have to blow everything away and reinstall the dependencies.
Right. Yeah.
Scroll up, Jeremy. No, right there. Hold on. No, scroll up.
Joel, it's good to get your take on that.
No, you had it right.
I asked the whole group and you were the only one with an opinion.
Yeah, sometimes I'm opinionated, but I think they're both, I think they're both with issues, but nothing's ever going to be perfect. So,
but I like your point that until yarn came along, npm could stagnate because it didn't have.
Yeah, they were just, I had problems with npm and they just weren't doing anything.
Right.
So there wasn't a fire lit underneath them because there wasn't any competitions.
Right. So yarn really Facebook really added some competition with yarn, which is great.
It's not like Facebook
doesn't.
Not like Facebook doesn't have a lot to do with Node and npm too. So
right.
It's just another part of it. Different group.
Let's go by.
Well, let's see. What did you do with the one with the multiple ones?
It's not 100%.
It's going to use both. I like that it's going to use both. I would prefer that. Go back to the one. Oh, yeah. Here you're going to do. Okay. Beautiful.
WWDC is next.
No, you have a user. You have a user in the example.
Right, but based on the rule that I was stating, I'll need a separate author. Right, because I may not be the author of it, but I am the user.
Yes. I hear you.
So this one will be hard coded, but what I'm thinking I'll do is I'll expand the components.
Mm-hmm. So let's see the one. That's the one. Beautiful. Let's see the other one that has 2, and you have one after the other. Beautiful. You got a little space in between.
Yeah.
What's a good trick for putting spaces in between? Only when there's needing like a margin bottom for the code display component. To space between only if there's another component in between.
You can also use Flexbox.
It's the owl selector, the star plus star.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'll pretty it up, make it a grid, do all that stuff.
Yeah.
So this needs to live in code.
That's amazing. This is beautiful.
Name.
I'll be right back.
Open wrapper. This will be wrapper. Should really be an article. And then let's do H2.
Oh, Jeremy, I have a really great extension in VS Code that when you rename a tag, it renames the closing tag automatically.
Yeah, I've run into issues with it. Of it like renaming the wrong thing at different times, and I just got annoyed by it. So
really,
it's been a while since I've tried it. It might be good now.
Yeah, you might want to update.
It's like the sibling pair renamer or something.
Yeah.
So that lives there.
Tell you which one I have.
So this needs to be props. Okay, so this one could be the prop of example. I'm going to pass in a lot of information, and I can make things. So this one could be just hash, and username is just Jermbo for right now. Let's make sure interfaces, user, default tab, title. Crap, I don't want to do that just yet. I'll just do the hash. I'll elaborate on that in a little bit.
Yeah,
hash.
auto rename tag is what I have.
Props. Yeah, I like it. It was cool. It caused me issues at one point where I had to uninstall it. So in here, instead of doing the code pen thingamajigger, I'll do the code pen wrapper, do the hash, example.hash.
Oh, and you can use that as a key too.
Key, title.
So I missed it. Why are you doing the code pen wrapper?
Because I like to separate things.
Okay.
So title, string,
Yeah, I see it. Beautiful.
Now this is my base to start styling and make it more look a little prettier, because I can do the example of the open and close as well. So the defaults. What was the name of the default tab? Yes.
What is that?
There's no types.
JS.
So yeah. I might make this my own thing so that way I can type it properly, but that's a problem for another day. So I want to see the default tab to be JavaScript.
Beautiful.
Which it is.
Beautiful.
And then result.
Nice. Now you'll figure out if you can set the results automatically. Go back to the options.
Yep. Preview.
Yeah, there you go.
Preview, true.
This is beautiful. That's fantastic.
Actually, you don't need to say equals true.
Right.
Why? What happened? If you just go preview,
in React, if you just have the name of the prop, it'll default to true.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It's a little extra for experts.
Yes. Didn't like that.
Well, I think the combination, like I'm telling it to be specifically that one.
Oh,
I don't know why this defaults to CSS, but
yeah, god damn it.
Default tab.
Because it was doing the JavaScript
result.
Oh yes, you could do. It looks like you could do commas. JS comma result.
Yep.
There you go.
That's what happens when you read documentation. You figure out what it's supposed to do.
RTFM.
Oh, there you go.
Beautiful.
Sweet.
That's amazing. That's so amazing.
So I'm looking over my notes. I think I tackled everything I cared about. So we figured out the data structure. I updated the TypeScript. We changed the data structure. We updated the structure to handle new data set. So by that, I mean the examples in the API list. This item here. So when I click on an individual item, I know if it has examples or not. Show the list of examples. Otherwise, show the coding playground I created. Display the code pen, done, and figure out how to cycle through them. I guess the cycle through them note today is just display them all. So I
Yeah,
can
why
work
not?
on styling and getting it prettier. So
Purdy.
yeah, pretty.
That is amazing. I love it.
Yes, accessibility. I'm tabbing through all this, so
Yes.
Nice. I love, Jeremy, I love, by the way, the color coding of the tabs, and also up above there too. I love
How
how
you do that,
style it.
Jeremy? Do you know, Todd? I don't know how he does
SAS
it.
magic.
Oh, you did like
SAS
first
magic.
of, second, third. Is it like that?
Essentially, yeah.
Yeah, it's really nice.
I agree.
I was admiring that a little bit ago.
The whole design is gorgeous. Yep. Beautiful. Beautiful. Okay.
Yeah,
That's
I've
gorgeous.
got a whole bunch of SAS generating my
Yeah.
CSS custom properties, and then I have functions that'll allow me to create these and be more developer friendly.
Mm-hmm.
I'm starting to become a big fan of module CSS.
Mm.
So like what we have here in my project at work is I have CodePen wrapper.module.scss and then my text wrapper or my CodePen.tsx, and then I import styles from that module, and it automatically takes care of the scoping by creating a hash of the variable of the class name. So the way we would use this, instead of me doing class name is wrapper, I would use it something like class name equals styles dot wrapper, and styles dot wrapper, and I would import styles from dot slash thing dot module dot scss, right? So it just happens to be the same name, CodePen because the generator that I've created. And this helps me scope it. So it's like I get all the benefit of SAS. I get all of the benefit of a separate CSS file, because I cannot get around my head around CSS in JS, like the styled components thing. Ugh, I can't. It's going to be a hard pill for me to swallow to get on board with that.
I hear you.
So that's it. Thanks, everybody. Does anybody have any questions, any suggestions for? It's 8 o'clock, so I guess we can call it a night. That was fun to do.
I would just say, Jeremy, there was a while back where you did an entire walked us through coding in CSS, like CSS functions, and I thought that was really cool, and was thinking it would be cool for an upcoming, just some upcoming event to recreate or create a a custom CSS framework from scratch. I think that would be a really cool event.
That sounds like someone wants to present.
No,
he's
there's
asking
only
me to
one
do
person on this call.
Yeah. No. I understood everything. And it sounds like he wants to present.
Yeah, absolutely. Because this has actually been on my mind a lot recently, because there are some things that have dropped recently or been more widely supported, like CSS Grid. Flexbox has gotten some updates using the gap functionality. My thought process behind the CSS custom properties and how to use that with SAS is something I've been toying with and trying to get a more simplistic system, right? So an elegant system that you, the developer consuming this, have a good time using, but it's also not a nightmare on the code side to figure out what's happening there. So all of my examples, you can look at the sample APIs and see what I'm talking about with my system in place now of me creating SAS maps to generate the base color functions that I care about, and then have a separate functions file for various things like how do I get the fonts? How do I get the colors? How do I get whatever? Because the names might not match up. The one
So-
thing I wish SAS was having is compile time information. So as I'm typing it, I get IntelliSense, because if the variables are over here somewhere else and the function is consuming it, the best I've been able to do.
TypeScript for CSS.
Oh my God, that would be amazing.
You want
Because like all I've been
you
able
want
to do is
TypeScript
just throw an
for-
error.
yeah.
Like if this
A lot
key
of
doesn't
times-
exist in that map, throw an error. And
A
that's
lot
not
of
what I
times
want.
Visual Studio can do that for you. You know what I mean? Like Visual Studio plugins and things like that. They can give you that
Yeah.
that IntelliSense at least is what you're talking for. That
The
auto-completion.
reason why this isn't doable from the plugins I've seen or Visual Studio is because of how non-programmatic CSS is, right? SAS is trying to add layers of functionality and programmatic thinking behind it, but I define variables. It's a SAS map is basically an associative array. It's a key value pair. The function I'm trying to use to build the CSS custom property doesn't know anything about it. I'm passing that information in. It's checking to see if it exists. SAS doesn't know anything about it. So I haven't found a plugin to do that or figured out a way to match the two other than just throwing errors. If you throw in a key, it looks for the map. It looks through the map. If it doesn't find the key, it just throws an error saying this isn't defined. So that's the best I've been able to do is a compile time error versus a development time, code hinting.
I hear you. And is there with a linter type thing? Is it linter?
I mean, what the hell's in your hand?
This?
Yeah.
It's a cell phone stand.
Oh. You
Just had to have it. I needed something to hold on to, to think thoroughly. I need to get my hands busy. But would a linter do something like that, where it would stop you at least before it's running, or that's what's stopping you right now with here?
SAS is a compile time language, so if you do something wrong, you'll see in the in the error, like you have to build in the error of saying this key does not match, is not found in this map. But setting that up doesn't come out of the box. It'll either just fail and say nothing important, or you can throw your own error in SAS. So it's that's as elegant as I've been able to figure out, and it was getting very hairy and complicated, and I didn't see anybody else being able to pick it up. So
you're the wiggly line. You're the wiggly line, not the air type, right? That's if you had a sign out there and you were picketing.
Hairy and complicated does not sound like Damien.
What? Say it again. Hairy and complicated?
He's not describing you.
I love that. What did you have in your hand? You were playing with something and all that.
Yeah, I got it's a fidget toy.
So
my daughter has those. They're awesome.
I have to drop. I got to talk to Palm Beach. So thanks everybody for joining and continue the conversation.
Cheers, guys.
Thanks, Jeremy. That was great.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jeremy.
Hey, thanks.
Thank you very much. I think everybody here won already. Is there anybody who didn't win already a JetBrains license?
No,
Anthony, did you win one?
Need one either. So I have a JetBrains subscription. So.
Oh my! yeah, that's the same thing. Todd was like, "I'm out of here because I already have one and all that." So
I haven't.
And one. You have? Did I give you one, Dennis?
No.
You didn't? I haven't given you one. Anthony, have I given you one?
Yeah, I won.
You won one. Steve, I know one. Andres, have I given you one? Have you won one at least, or do you have like Joel an unlimited subscription? Joel, do you have unlimited of like all the services?
Not everything.
Like all the apps. I don't mean that. Yeah. They have some services that they cost. I mean,
I got month. I got like PyCharm and IntelliJ and pretty much everything. There's there's a couple of oddball things that are separate, I think. But
anything that they charge per month is separate, I think. This is just for the software.
Yeah. So I'm just trying to think of what's in the
list of the licenses we get from the is less than probably subscription has. I would think. It's almost everything. It's ReSharper, it's PyCharms, it's PHP and WebStorm, which are spectacular. I love them. We gave one to Michelle. She was one of the speakers before because of that. And all that. So Dennis, I'll hook you up.
Yeah.
I'll take care of you.
I think it covers pretty much everything. It's actually,
It is.
Adobe is the weird one where you have a subscription, but then they got all these weird things that don't fit under any subscription.
No, Adobe's worse. Adobe has the maximum, the minimum, and you're like, and then combinations.
But even if you have the maximum, there's things that aren't even there.
Really?
Yeah,
I didn't know that. I thought there was one like you're paying $1,000 a month, you get everything.
You have to buy another subscription for them. It's just really weird. There's a few tools that just don't show up. So
that's crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah. And when I go there, it's like I can't find any subscription that covers them. You just have to get them by themselves.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. So you
all right.
Remember what they were, but no big deals. So.
Dennis, I know how to reach you. I'll let you know the license. Everybody else, if you have any ideas of what you'd like to learn, what you'd like to teach, most of you have already taught.
Anthony, I'm on the other side. It's like, tell me what you want to get, and I'll tell you about it.
What do you consider something cool? Like I'm always a hit when I do push notifications. When I do WebSockets, people are like, "Wow, magic!" I've done that. I love to do those things. Dennis, are you going down to hell? I see only red everywhere. Is something on fire in front of you?
What happened?
Like everything went red over where you are and all that. I don't know what happened and all that. So I was like, holy crap.
Now what do you say?
The same. Now the lights are back and all that. Steve, you won already, right?
I did, yeah.
Yeah. So what do you all find interesting when it comes to you too, Joel? What do you guys find interesting when it comes to web or that
There's a bunch of grumbling about going back to server side. And I just
like Next.js
an article about server side plus WebSockets being the path, and so there's some interesting stuff there.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious because I had an argument a few years ago with a friend of mine who was working for State Farm, and we were talking about WebSockets, and I mean he was wrong on a bunch of stuff because. I'm like, there's limits in how many files can be open in the operating system. So, if you're trying to do everything with WebSockets to keep connections and push information out to the browser, how much can you support? And I really wasn't saying it was a bad idea. I was just kind of wondering how much we can really support. Because
it's one channel per site.
Joel. Yeah, but okay, but let's say that, let's say you're hosting this on a Unix machine, okay? And the Windows machine really works the same way, even though I don't have the code base, okay?
Yeah.
But I know this because I was involved in a lot of the implementation of this stuff in the early days. So Unix has a file table of all the open files. And it has to crawl through that. And the more open files you have, the slower things are going to get.
So just to clarify, you're not talking about the client, you're talking about the server here.
I'm talking about the server, okay?
The solution to that is there SignalR and other services that will split it among multiple servers. And as you add more clients, it adds more servers to achieve.
Well, yeah, so we can scale. But I mean, my question is, and this is something, I don't think this is a whole presentation, but maybe somebody can do something that tells me there's been changes, that there are solutions. I mean, I know we keep trying to make the file table faster, and there's other ways to look at it and stuff. And, and things have certainly changed a lot since I did network implementations back in the 80s. But my question is the reason that HTTP worked is because we didn't keep a connection open. And then we did improve it by keeping a connection open so we could push multiple things without establishing new connections for a page. But that in itself has its own problems because now you're pushing them all synchronously through that pipe. So sometimes it was actually better to open up multiple connections and do the work. Okay.
So they solved it the same way they did it with the website. So you know that it starts, open, closes, and it's done. But for example, in ADP, we had a lot of processes. This had to do because we were connecting to a mainframe that would take over 5 minutes. So the web server will actually tell the browser, "Hey, I'm in port 80, and I'm in port 6747."
Yeah.
And then it would close its own port.
Yeah.
Make it available to somebody else, not tell the client. The client still thinks it's going to get something back.
Yeah.
It would give that port to somebody else for a quick answer, like, "Yep, hello, here's my hello world front page." And then when the mainframe would be ready, I would ask IIS, it would ask for that port back from the operating system and then reconnect. So even the web server has solved that issue. You don't even have the 65,000 limit. So you could start going, pretending, even the 65,000 port limit is not true. It can start taking it back and asking again without telling the client, and the client still thinks there's something there.
Yeah, well, so.
And with this,
a lot of things,
WebSockets as a service. But the WebSocket is a service from AWS and all that. Take care of that by having multiple IP addresses and multiple things.
But so my question is, his answer was like, well, no, we aren't opening all those files because everybody's connecting to port 80. And I'm like,
no,
you don't understand that when everybody opens up a connection to port 80, you're really getting a connection to someplace else. It's just that port 80 is your initial connection where you're coming in, and there has to be an open file. So my question became, it's like we can't support 65,000 open files either, because I don't know of any OS that really does that. That's ridiculous, and it's probably going to slow things down. So the answer then, of course, is at a certain point we have to start scaling horizontally to support all of these WebSockets, right?
That's what these two services from AWS.
My question becomes, if we start overusing the WebSockets and we're scaling horizontally, at what point is the resource use inefficient compared to the benefit that we're getting by being able to push something to the browser instead of asking the browser to poll us?
But Joel, there is no way to do it better than having the browser wait for us as the server to give it something. There's no better way. There's no efficiently if you have 65, if they have unlimited ports now, because it, like you said, it scales horizontally, who cares? It's somebody else's problem. That is the whole cloud thing.
It isn't, because
it is 100%, because they can go unlimited.
When I look at my bill from Amazon, it's like, wait a minute, I got to cut something out. Okay.
No, I know, but this is a service. This is only if you use it. And with AWS, with Azure, I think that's even free. You're using the their queuing system. What the fuck is it called? Anyways, that's what you get charged for, not the WebSocket part.
Yeah, but okay. So my point really is not so much, what can we do? But my point is, I'm looking for people to talk about, where the break point is, and
the answer is there isn't, and the answer is I can give you an industry that can prove to you it isn't. It's called the gaming industry, and the gaming industry has much more requests than the Olympics website. It has much more requests than the World Soccer, World Cup soccer. It has unlimited, and that's the people that use these services. And so therefore our little tiny, because we're Facebook and it's this much of the 100, of the rest is Fortnite. This is us with Facebook, and they can handle us.
Yeah, but everybody's paying for that. I pay for subscriptions for my son, No, but that's my point, is that what, we can just keep adding. We can just keep adding stuff, but sometimes people aren't looking at the flip side of it. You know, Bitcoin's the same way. Like they just took down a huge Bitcoin mining operation in England because they thought it was a marijuana grow house.
I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah, it was
so funny.
It was so, so much energy. But the real point is...
It wasn't a big one, Joe. You know that. It was someone's house.
Well, they were tapped into the main power line. That was the thing.
Yeah, but they weren't even 1% of the network.
No, but my point is that, Bitcoin, to try to remain anonymous, needs to have all of this mining so that there's competition. Bye, Dennis.
Bye, Joel. Bye, Dennis.
So there's competition, right? But the thing is we're spending enough electricity to power a city to do Bitcoin. And
that's the cost of doing business. Every bank out there and every building the bank runs is much more than that.
Responsible though?
That's a whole nother thing, right? Bitcoin, we're undoing our whole eco progress, which was very minimal.
There's all kinds of issues with that.
I got a job too, guys. Thanks everything.
See you, Anthony. See you next time.
Yeah.
See you next time.
Yeah.
I'm out of here too.
We'll see you, Steve.
Yeah, no, my point was just, it's like, to me, it's like, are we being responsible? And what's the point where we need it or we don't need it? The games need it. I get that. The games are, you need to be in constant communication, so you're going to keep it open. But there's a lot of things like, my friend at State Farm, and we were talking about, well, we want to keep the website open so when they're on the State Farm website, we can push information. And I'm like, how much do you really need to push?
Yeah.
It's like,
but if it's financially viable, spreading the load means that it's technically achievable. So what's the problem?
Well, we're running hundreds of servers at the cost of the environment for something that we may not really need to do.
And it may not be true. They may have been able to do the idea that it's 100,000 clients, but it doesn't require 100,000 servers. That is the promise of the cloud. That is what we got from the cloud. Well, you and I are running ADP plus my little shitty website plus your demo website plus the three consultant companies you work for. They're in total $75 million, and they run on one server in AWS.
I get all of that. I'm just kind of saying that, I feel like we don't